Children reaction video. Today, we're going to be watching the Sonic EXE. I did try this before, but I got so I decided to try to record it again. And now, let's get into the video.
Tom had just returned from school that warm spring day. Although his friends had invited him outside, he didn't really want to go for a walk at all. Oh, if only Tom had known. Tom was a fan of the Sonic the Hedgehog games. This love had been instilled by his father, who had an old but still working Sega lying around from childhood. He and his father often played together in the evenings. However, Tom found all the games boring except for this one. Additionally, they always had bugs in them. His dad was on the night shift that time, so Tom didn't have anyone to play with. The darkness of the coming night ominously covered the city. Suddenly, his mother came into the room and said in surprise that Tom had received a letter. It seems to be from his friend Kyle. This was unexpected, given that Tom hadn't seen Kyle in quite some time. They had said he was ill. Opening the envelope, Tom found a note and a CD inside. Catching a glimpse of the Sonic's image on the disc, Tom thought it might be something cool, like some kind of new mod. After reading the note, Tom went numb and could hardly believe his eyes. Having come to his senses, Tom read it again. The letter said that if Tom received this message, Kyle was most likely dead. But Kyle asked that his last wish be fulfilled. His friend warned that the game that killed him was on the disc, so Tom shouldn't play it. Kyle didn't have the time or energy to destroy the disc, but he was sure that Tom could do it. After rereading the letter, Tom looked at the disc. Now he noticed that the cover was an unusual Sonic. It was similar to the classic one, yet darker and more disheveled. His eyes were completely black and blood oozed out from them. The letter seemed sort of defiant to Tom, since Kyle knew just how much Tom loved Sonic, which meant he would most certainly play this game. Intuition told Tom that this wasn't a joke, but curiosity got the best of him, and he decided to start the game. There wasn't anything to do anyway, and how could a CD possibly harm him? Tom turned on the computer and inserted the disc. Externally, all files looked the same as in Sonic the Hedgehog 3. By force of habit, Tom opened the file Sonic EXE. But something went wrong, and Tom immediately noticed it. The normal loading animation looked like it had been scorched by fire and was dripping blood. Then, from this sharp sound, Tom, who had been staring at the monitor intently, shuddered. A bird crashed into his room window and probably broke itself into pieces. At the same time, the game's ominous soundtrack was now playing. Tom felt uneasy. The kid automatically went to where you choose your character. However, of all of the characters, only Tails was available. Whatever then. Hill, Act 1. Tom read the name of the level. Something new. Let's go. Tom started playing. What was wrong with this game, though? There were dead animals everywhere along Tails' path. They had been killed by some extreme cruelty, and bloodied bodies were hung on the trees. Tom was shocked at what he saw. Kyle never said he could program, so he couldn't have done it himself. And why would he scare his friend like that anyway? And then Tom came to the end of the level. Usually, you'd fight a boss here, but in this final part he saw Sonic instead. And again, something was wrong. Sonic stood with his eyes closed. His spines were dark purple, a dirty kind of color, and blood oozed from under his eyes. Tails tapped Sonic on the shoulder to wake him up. Sonic didn't react for a while. Tom involuntarily approached the monitor, trying to see the animation. Suddenly, Sonic's eyes popped open, causing Tom to recoil abruptly from the screen, nearly falling off of his chair. Sonic greeted Tom ominously and asked if he wanted to play with him, although the fact of the matter was that there was no choice. And again, something was wrong. In pursuit of Tails, Sonic proceeded to demonstrate some impossible abilities. He jumped high and flew, although this was unrealistic without super form. No matter how Tails tried to escape, Sonic still caught up with him. The character's death was so brutal that Tom froze in horror. Sonic laughed and chided the player for being too slow. Then a second round was suggested. Tom decided to finish the level and chose Knuckles. However, the result was still the same. Sonic overtook Knuckles without any problems and literally tore him apart. Cursing to himself, Tom turned off the game, deciding to take a break. It was already well after midnight and he was tired. Fortunately, he wouldn't have to go to school tomorrow and could finish playing in the morning. But Tom couldn't get any sleep. All night he dreamed of bloody Sonic with his fanged smile. Images of the murdered Tails and Knuckles loomed in Tom's head. No matter what Tom dreamt about, Sonic followed him everywhere and killed all the characters in his dreams. That next morning, Tom woke up in a cold sweat. Everything was so unreal that Tom decided he had dreamt up everything from yesterday due to fatigue and just needed to finish the game. His mom passed by the room and, seeing that Tom was not sleeping, offered him some breakfast. Tom refused and said he wasn't hungry. When his mother left, he eagerly turned on his computer and launched the game. While the game was loading, Tom nervously replayed the events of yesterday in his head. The kid tried to understand what his mistakes were and thought about how he might defeat this twisted Sonic. The game finally loaded. In the character selection area, both Tails and Knuckles were listed as dead. And among the available characters was only Ivo Robotnik, Dr. Eggman. But how is that even possible? In the original game, Robotnik was always an evil character and was never playable. What the hell was up with this game? Tom had no choice but to play as Robotnik. The level loaded and the game started. The first thing Robotnik stumbled upon in this level was Tails and Knuckles being killed. Yeah, how ironic for a villain. Tom chuckled to himself. The thought crossed his mind that this was some kind of hell for Robotnik because of his atrocities in the classic game. Tom, represented by Robotnik, continued on his way, mechanically collecting coins along the way. Every now and then he found threatening inscriptions on the opposite areas. Tom completely immersed himself in the game, not noticing how blood had now appeared under his eyes. He watched without looking away, and his fingers mechanically pressed the buttons on the gamepad. Toward the end of the level, there were more bad signs in the game, and the nightmarish souls of Tails and Knuckles flickered in the mirror, having begun to look more like the ominous Sonic. Finally, Robotnik met Sonic. This time, the hedgehog wasn't asleep. Sonic laughed demonically and said that Tom had been given a chance to turn the game down. But he had woken Sonic up, and now he would pay for it. The game continued. Robotnik frantically rushed across the map, running away from Sonic and moving over the final obstacles. Sonic was catching up with Robotnik as if it were nothing at all. Suddenly, Sonic disappeared behind Robotnik and teleported to a point directly in front of him. Appearing in front of Robotnik, Sonic raised his hands and opened his mouth, as if he was trying to eat his victim. After that, the screen went blank for a few seconds, and then turned blood red. At the same time, a hyper-realistic image of Sonic appeared, as if he was not a pixel character, but existed in real life. And the inscription on the monitor said that Sonic is a god. When Tom looked at this inscription, red liquid also began to ooze from his eyes. He could no longer watch and turned off the computer in a fright. Turning around, Tom saw that a plush toy in the form of an ominous Sonic was lying on the bed. Tom went to the bed and picked up the toy. Suddenly, the voice of Tom's mother woke him up. She offered him some breakfast. The guy had a strange feeling that Sonic was a nightmare, and there wasn't any game. As before, Tom declined the breakfast. After experiencing that dream, he had no appetite whatsoever. Tom slowly got out of bed and decided to check if this game disc was even from Kyle in the first place. It was neither in the disk drive nor on the table. Surprised by this, Tom thought it was time to stop playing Sonic. It's not good when the game turns into such dreams. Now wanting to wash up a bit, Tom went to the bathroom. Opening the door, Tom heard the soundtrack from the beginning of the level in Sonic. Tom immediately decided that he was just imagining this until he literally saw coins from the game hanging in the air in front of his feet. Barely lingering, Tom cautiously walked forward and collected coins. Artifacts hung in the air on the way to the bath, and Tom continued to collect them. Finding himself in the bathroom, Tom pinched himself, but this dream didn't disappear. Tom was still standing, leaning over the sink. Tom started crying. He didn't understand what was going on. Raising his head and looking in the mirror, Tom froze. Sonic was sitting in the reflection of the mirror. He held a gamepad in one hand and waved to Tom with the other. Sonic asked him to play again. Tom violently hit the mirror with his fist, and it shattered into pieces. However, the broken mirror immediately repaired itself. Behind Sonic were the ghosts of Tails and Knuckles. They told Tom he couldn't hide now. He used to play them in the game, and now it was their turn to play him. Tom was crying. Footsteps could be heard on the stairs, and Robotnik appeared. Sonic ordered Tom to run, and he obeyed. The next day, Tom's parents had breakfast together. Something was bugging them, but they could no longer remember their son, as if he had never even existed. It was the same thing at school. All his classmates had forgotten who Kyle and Tom were, and their names disappeared from the student lists forever. There are rumors in the gaming world that Kyle and Tom lost.
You guys want to see more stuff like this? Please let me know. Anyway, I should upload this now, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.